The diesel revolution didn't happen all at once. It happened one stubborn, unglamorous machine at a time, each one solving a problem the last one couldn't. From a boxy little switcher nobody thought would matter, to a modern giant that ended a 100-year-old rivalry, this is the complete story of how diesel took over the rails. Quick pause right here. If engineering history like this is your thing, subscribe now and hit like. It genuinely makes a massive difference for this channel and helps us keep making videos exactly like this one. Box cab switcher. The diesel revolution did not begin on the open road. It began in a rail yard in the Bronx. In 1925, a consortium of Alco, General Electric, and Ingersoll Rand built the first commercially successful diesel-electric locomotive, Central Railroad of New Jersey No. 1000. It was a plain, boxy 60-ton switcher with a 300-horsepower engine inside a square steel cab. No streamlining, no elegance, just raw function. The reason it existed wasn't ambition, it was the law. New York City had banned steam locomotives from its terminals because of the smoke, and railroads needed a clean alternative. No. 1000 went to work in October 1925, shuffling freight cars for over 30 years before retirement. Only 33 of these box cabs were ever built, and they were crude, underpowered, and limited strictly to yard work. But they proved one thing that changed everything. A diesel engine paired with an electric generator could move rail cars reliably, day after day, without coal, without water, without smoke. 5 box cabs survive today, and this is the locomotive that started the diesel age. E-unit. If the box cab was function without style, the E-unit was pure glamour. EMD built nearly 1,300 of them between 1937 and 1963, and they powered virtually every named passenger train in the country. Each unit carried 2 diesel engines driving a pair of trucks with 3 axles, but only the outer 2 axles were powered, leaving the center axle riding free. That unpowered middle axle was the secret, spreading weight gently across the rail and giving passengers the smooth, stable ride a premium train demanded. By the time the E7 arrived in 1945, the design had matured into a 2,000-horsepower machine with the iconic bulldog nose that became the face of American diesel streamliners, and it became the most numerous passenger diesel ever built. E-units hauled passengers across America for nearly 4 decades before fading into preservation, the FT. If any single locomotive killed the steam engine, it was this one. In November 1939, a 4-unit demonstrator numbered 103 left an Illinois plant and set out on the most consequential road trip in railroad history. Over the next 11 months, it covered over 83,000 miles across 35 states and 20 different railroads, hauling real freight in head-to-head tests against the best steam power each line could offer. On one brutal mountain division, where steam locomotives needed helper engines just to survive the grade, this single diesel made the climb alone. A railroad magazine editor later called it simply, "the diesel that did it." Each unit packed over 1,300 horsepower and could be coupled in sets of 4 for well over 5,000 combined horsepower. Over 1,000 FT units were eventually built, and by 1947 the diesel builder was producing 4 to 6 locomotives every single day. Steam's dominance was effectively over. Road switcher. This is the design that won. The basic shape of virtually every diesel locomotive built in the last 70 years. A narrow hood, an offset cab, and external walkways running the length of the frame. The idea came from a 1941 request by a railroad that needed one single locomotive that could haul freight on branch lines and switch cars in yards, rather than owning 2 separate specialized machines. It succeeded on both fronts, and roughly 470 units were produced through 1960. But the road switcher truly conquered American railroading in 1949 with the introduction of a new general-purpose model. It generated 1,500 horsepower, cost less than a cab unit, and was far easier to maintain. The follow-up model sold over 3,800 units and became one of the most numerous diesel locomotives ever built. Together, these designs finished what the FT had started, the complete dieselization of North American railroads, diesel hydraulic. Not every country agreed that diesel-electric was the only answer. In Germany, engineers chose a completely different path, hydraulic transmission. Instead of generators and traction motors, power flows through fluid torque converters filled with oil, A pump spins the oil spins a turbine, and the turbine drives the wheels through a mechanical final drive. The advantage is weight, since a diesel hydraulic carries no heavy generators or traction motors, giving it a better power-to-weight ratio. The most celebrated German example became reliable, fast, and formed the backbone of West German mainline diesel service for years. Britain tried the same approach with dozens of powerful hydraulic locomotives, but the experiment ultimately failed. Transmission efficiency was noticeably poorer than diesel-electric, and maintenance proved far more difficult. The last British hydraulic was withdrawn by 1977, and on the main line, diesel-electric won the argument decisively. Centennial. This is the largest diesel locomotive ever built. Exactly 47 were constructed between 1969 and 1971, exclusively for one railroad, nicknamed Centennials because the very first unit was rushed out of the factory to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Transcontinental Railroad. The numbers here are staggering. 2 massive engines producing a combined 6,600 horsepower, 8 powered axles, and a length of nearly 100 feet. Each one could replace a pair of standard locomotives and still run faster over the same territory. But running 2 complete engine and generator sets inside a single frame meant brutal maintenance costs, leading to their retirement by the mid-1980s. 14 of the 47 survive today, still the largest operating diesel locomotive in the world. The SD-42. This is widely considered the most successful diesel locomotive ever built. Over 4,000 units rolled out between 1972 and 1986, one of the largest production runs in North American railroad history. The formula was refreshingly simple: one turbocharged 16-cylinder engine producing 3,000 horsepower, 6 powered axles, and modular solid-state electronics that made troubleshooting dramatically faster and cheaper than anything that came before. Every major railroad in North America bought them. They hauled coal through Appalachia, grain across the plains, and intermodal freight across the Rockies. When fuel prices spiked in the 1970s, this locomotive beat out its higher horsepower rival on fuel economy, and railroads voted decisively with their wallets. Many are still running today, more than 50 years after the first one rolled off the line, refusing to quit. GE Evolution Series. For decades, one manufacturer dominated the diesel locomotive market completely. Then everything changed. This series entered full production in 2005 and became the best-selling locomotive line in history. The flagship model delivers 4,400 horsepower from a revolutionary 12-cylinder engine that replaced an older 16-cylinder design with fewer cylinders, a larger bore and stroke, and dramatically lower emissions. Every major railroad in North America has ordered them, and over 5,000 units had been built within just over a decade, surpassing the SD-42's legendary production record. When strict new emission standards arrived in 2015, the manufacturer responded with an updated version featuring an advanced exhaust treatment system, becoming the first mainline freight diesel to meet the strictest emissions rules ever imposed. This series didn't just outsell its rival, it ended a rival's decades-long reign as the dominant locomotive builder entirely. SD-70 ACE. This is one manufacturer's last stand. When strict new emission standards forced both major builders to redesign their flagship freight locomotives, one company built an entirely new engine from scratch. The other refined what it already had. This locomotive kept a proven 16-cylinder engine and pushed it to 4,300 horsepower, riding on 6 axles with advanced, self-steering trucks that reduced wheel and rail wear so effectively that railroads saved millions in track maintenance costs. When even stricter standards arrived in 2015, an updated version was fitted with an entirely new 12-cylinder engine, marking the first time this manufacturer's road locomotive abandoned an engine architecture that had powered its machines since the very beginning. By then, the company itself had been sold off to a new owner. This locomotive is the last one to carry the DNA of a lineage that began with the FT back in 1939. From a boxy little switcher built to dodge a smoke ban, to a modern giant descended from an 80-year-old bloodline, every locomotive on this list solved a real problem of its era, and each one pushed diesel power just a little further than the last. If you made it this far, you clearly love this kind of deep dive, so do the channel a favor right now, hit subscribe and drop a like before you go. It takes 2 seconds and it genuinely helps us keep making videos exactly like this one.